In the first video of this two-part series on the Book of the Dead, I talked about how what we today call the Book of the Dead is actually not a book at all, but rather over 200 different texts that could be used alone or together in a variety of combinations. It also wasn't even called the Book of the Dead in ancient times, but rather often was labeled at the beginning, if it was labeled at all, as being, quote, the spells of coming forth by day, end quote. Last time, I also posed a number of other questions, namely, is the of the dead part of the modern name a good fit for these texts? What is the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead really, and was it meant to wake up the dead who would then walk the earth, such as we see in the movies? Certainly, most of the examples of this collection of writings that survive today were found in tombs or even on people's mummified bodies. In that way, we are justified in associating this collection with the dead. But let's dig a little deeper to answer these questions by talking a bit about what the purpose of the Book of the Dead was. In other words, why would anybody actually want to own and be buried with these texts? Essentially, these texts were meant to help a person who had died find his or her way to their afterlife. In the ancient Egyptian conception of it, the journey to the afterlife was complicated and quite dangerous, and we'll talk a little bit about what the afterlife was like in a future video. To survive and arrive at your ultimate destination, you had to have a lot of specialized knowledge. The various possible parts that you could include in your Book of the Dead help provide this knowledge. That way, you didn't have to rely completely on memory and could have a kind of cheat sheet on hand for when you needed it. You can also think of this in modern terms as like having a smartphone in your pocket that you could use to access a curated collection of afterlife hacks. This specialized knowledge could be anything from the name of a gate through which one had to pass, to guides for particular areas that one had to navigate, and even magic spells that helped you repel enemies along the way, such as snakes. Therefore, while these texts were buried with the dead and were for the dead, they were actually meant to help continue life by assisting a person in reaching eternal life. Some spells were even meant to be used while one was alive. However, there is a grain of truth to the scene in the mummy that we talked about in part 1 of this series. Because the ancient Egyptians did utilize these texts to live on after death, and the name of the collection, quote, the spells of coming forth by day, end quote, alludes to its purpose of allowing one to go out from the tomb during the daytime. One could certainly mistake this for being like waking up a dangerous mummy as in the movies. However, the spells and information in the Book of the Dead were not meant to physically resurrect a person as in the movies. In other words, bodies are not going to get up and walk around. Instead, it was meant to allow multiple spirit-like parts of the person to live on, and these spirit-like parts were conceived of as mostly harmless by the ancient Egyptians. In a future video, I'll discuss the ancient Egyptian ideas about the different parts of the person. Now, the spells and chapters of the Book of the Dead fall into a variety of categories, really too many to fully describe here, but if you'd like to know more about this, let me know in the comments below and I can make a video in the future. Rest assured, we're all quite safe around copies of the Book of the Dead, even if we choose to read one aloud in a creepy place during the night. For those of you who want to dive into the Book of the Dead even deeper, I've included links to books that I recommend in the description below. Now I want to turn it over to you. How has this video changed your understanding of the Egyptian Book of the Dead? What do you think is the most fascinating thing about the Book of the Dead? Let me know in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, and to make sure that you don't miss future videos, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.